Okay, so Pam, you struggled finding names because that's really hard. It can be really overwhelming with so many new people. Charles, has it ever happened to you?
Yes, all the time. Ask anybody that works in the kitchen. You go into the walk-in and you stand there because you forget what you went in there for, and you don't remember till you get back to your cutting board and you're like, onions, and then you got to walk all the way back. So yeah.
So going back in and out.
Yeah.
So think to yourself for a quick second, why do you think that happens? Why do you think that we get really overwhelmed with so many things?
I think a lot of times, like in this instances, someone stops you along the way and asks you something else, and your brain sidetracks to that, and then you kind of get lost of what your original task was.
Get sidetracked, get distracted.
Also, it's like almost evolutionary. Like short-term memory is can only handle so much for reasons that like you have to be able to focus on what's in front of you, so it doesn't pay to store it at some point. You can only handle so much external stimulation.
It's true. Short-term memory can only handle so much. When you watched the video, did you notice that like you tensed up, or like your breathing changed a little bit, or you're like sweating, or like, oh shit, that happens to me?
You're not really tensing up, but that definitely happens to me. I was like, oh gosh.
Did anything seem funny, but also a little anxiety-provoking?
When she started talking quick and very loud, it was anxiety, a little anxiety.
When she was talking quickly?
Yeah.
Well, it was funny too when did she say, oh, something, when she covered the phone?
Yeah. She's like, maybe I shouldn't say that.
So when your brain gets anxious or nervous, it can dump cortisol, which is the stress hormone, into your system, which causes you to become even more distressed, and your brain has to work as well as it normally does. So breathing slowly and deeply can help make sure to breathe out fully will help drop the cortisol back down so you can think, process, and can control your emotions. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 3 deep breaths together. Okay, so we're going to take a deep breath in and out. Deep breath in and out. And one more. Deep breath in and out. Very good. Okay, so we're going to watch another clip of Tipa, and we're just going to kind of go through another, I'll ask questions, you guys will tell me what you think about the video, and we'll do a few more of those.
Especially when I had to come back and sit in the chair, you're going, oh my God. So, okay, so here we go. And up. Human beings have 5 ways to take things from, do this, out there and get them in their brain. 5 ways to take data from the world around you and put it in here so you can use it. You can process it, you can understand it, you can appreciate it. So the number 1 way, notice how it's separated from all the others. It's special. Do this, be an artist. Visual data. Visual data is the most powerful incoming data. It is what human beings prefer, and it is what they want first in any way of collecting data. They want to see something first. It allows them to see it, and then they can start to think about what they want to do next. But what you see is the most powerful sensory input that you're going to get in your brain. But here's the interesting thing about vision. Show me what you see with. Point to what you see with. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Put your hand back here. This is where you process in your brain what you see. So brain activity in the occipital area, the back of your brain, is where you process visual input. There's a little bit of distance there, isn't there? What connects the input system to the processing system is wiring. And in dementia, all wiring goes on the fritz and then dies. Just so you know. So there's a lot of wiring here. It's complicated wiring. It's actually fairly complicated because how many eyes do you have? 2. So you've got to take in data from 2 eyes, integrate those 2 pieces of data, process it, and then make sense of it. So all that's happening in the back of your brain. I'll show you in a few minutes. There's a huge amount of your brain devoted to visual processing. It's huge. There's also wiring between what you see and some other parts. Second way that you get data in your brain, take your index finger. Oh, look at how it points to things. what you hear, auditory incoming. Auditory data is the second most important way that human beings get data into their brain. Auditory. But if you hear a sound off to the side, what will you immediately do? Look, because this is primary. This just alerts you to go look and see what it is you want to see. So when it comes to dementia, visual then auditory. People with dementia pay more attention and are really getting more value out of what they see than what they hear. This is secondary, this is primary. Guess what caregivers like to do a lot of? Do this. Y'all love to run your mouth. You think they're paying attention to what you're saying. What they're doing is watching you when you're saying it. And they're picking up on your visual cues, but they're missing the content cues. Do this. So take the weapon that you've created, put it to your head, and pull the trigger. Because what happens is we think they're processing what we're giving them verbally, and what they're really processing is how we look visually and how we sound, but not necessarily the content. And because we're not on the same page, they're not getting this, they're getting this. We think they're getting this. This is not going to match. Who has to change? We do. So we have to use less of this and start with this. And learn to use visual more than auditory. Third way you get data is auditory. Put your hands right here. Your temporal lobes. Both sides are involved, but they're very different. This side is very different than this side. How many ears do you have? 2. All forms of dementia, all forms attack the brain asymmetrically. It means it attacks one side of the brain more than the other. That's how it works. It hits one side and then it spreads more. So what happens in general, the left side of the brain is generally attacked sooner, faster, more devastatingly than the right side of the brain. We don't know exactly why, but most patterns of dementia attack you're going to see more on the left than on the right. Left, right, language areas, but they're different. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Third way that you get data in your brain, take that middle finger, drop it down, and touch it to the back of your other hand. Now this is actually complicated, and this is one of the most complicated, and it also takes up a lot of brain space. This is sensory motor. You feel something, you do something, you do something, you feel something. They're wired together. So that when you feel something, if you like it, you do more of it. If you don't like it, you stop doing it. So when you feel something, you do something to change or encourage or facilitate what you're feeling, and if you don't like it, you don't do it anymore. Here's the biggest challenge of dementia care. Turn to the person next to you. And if you will come up this time for me. Thanks. All right, now what we're going to do is eliminate vision, and we're not going to talk. Okay, so we're taking away 2 of the ways that you would normally be able to get data into your brain, and I'm just going to use that third way. Go ahead and do that so you get the feel of what it feels like when you're doing this. So you can already tell where I'm going with this. This is not a good one to start with because most people are not fond of the idea of starting an interaction like this. And I do this particularly so you'll start to get the idea, no touching until you've done a visual verbal, and only then are you allowed to do the touch. You got to make sure they come together. So here's what we're going to do. You close your eyes. People with dementia, put your hands behind your back because I want you to feel incredibly vulnerable. That's what this disease does. It robs your skills so you suddenly are pretty vulnerable. And you thought you were confident. Okay, so caregivers, here's what you're going to do. You watch me and do to them what I do to my person. Okay, y'all should have your eyes closed. There should be no peeking. Notice how many of you opened them up to see what I was up to. Yeah, they're sneaky like that. Okay, you ready? We're going to use these. Okay, you ready? And now, one more. Now, I'm going to pause you.
Okay, so we're going to do what Tifa just did.
Except the last part.
Okay, so I want you guys to stand up and partner up.
We're going at it again?
No. We gotta go left.
Okay, so I want you to pick one person to close their eyes first.
Or Nicole do it.
Close your eyes.
Okay, and whoever has their eyes open, go ahead and do what Tifa
Do
did.
they have to put their hands behind their backs?
Yes, please put your hands behind your back. And here, here. Okay, now swap positions or swap roles.
Okay.
Boy, that's very vulnerable.
Right?
Oh,
Isn't it?
scary.
Okay, you guys can have a seat.
That's freaky.
So, what happened for you? How did that feel?
I flinched.
You flinched?
Immediately, because I knew I didn't have my
Yeah.
ability to do like an ocular pat down and like use my hands to like deflect any like
Mm-hmm.
right in your face. Very
Mhm.
vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my eyes were clenched. It's like, oh, what's
Mom.
gonna stop?
Yeah, what's gonna come at
You
you?
can feel yourself like making fists behind your back.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
you want to punch somebody.
You can get yourself get defensive.
Yeah.
No, but if
Yeah.
you think about it, why all the residents, some, not all, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of the residents, why they get so defensive when you're trying to toilet.
Yeah.
Think of that, for example, when you're trying to, change their briefs or their underpants because there's a complete stranger. Do you think that some of the CNAs take the time to come up to you and say, hey, how you doing? How was everything today? No, they're going straight for what they're supposed to do, right? And whatever the checklist thing is to do. And you're losing those connections that you're supposed to create first. So the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to go and they're going to want to hit you. Okay, so back to the thing. Okay, so what did you find yourself, or you can ask, we'll do it as a group. What did you find yourself wanting to do during those moments?
Flinch.
Flinch.
Open my eyes.
Open my eyes.
Because I mean, it's interesting because I trusted because I know Nick's not gonna hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really feel like I just kind of let it happen, but like other than flinching, like involuntarily moved me. But I think the thing is what's interesting is even though I trust, even though maybe you can have a rapport and trust with the resident, it makes it no less or anxiety inducing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I still felt anxious.
Yeah, because just because you know somebody or familiar with them, or
Right.
coming at you in a vulnerable position,
Right.
yeah, you'll still flinch. Now, what do you think you would say or feel if you had dementia? What would you do if the roles were reversed?
Oh, you would definitely be lifting or protecting yourself, like,
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
that.
yeah, get back, protect yourself. Why, or how do you think this applies to people with dementia, our residents, when we're trying to help them do these things? Like, give me an example.
When you're sitting when you're toileting someone or
Mm-hmm.
trying to get them to go to eat.
Yeah, when you're trying to get them in meal times. Yeah.
Like brushing food off of them, crumbs, like let me fix your collar, or your hair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, trying to help groom them. And is it true that we often do to rather than do with to get those tasks done?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do one more. So we're gonna watch one more video and then do one more round of those activities.
How many of you found at some point who were being touched, your eyes flew open? How many of you realize you had a really hard time not going, oh, wait a minute, hang on there. Now, what I'd like you to do right now is touch yourself where we just touched you. Go ahead and touch yourself where we made the touches.
Alright, so everyone stand up one more time. And close your eyes. And you're gonna do it to yourself this time. So touch it in all the places where your partner touched you last. Okay, open your eyes. Now, how is this different?
No feelings.
Just
Relaxing.
Relaxing?
You knew it was gonna happen.
You know you're
You
on.
knew it was gonna happen, you know your own body. How is it the same? Do you think it was the same at all?
No.
No.
Not really, no.
Why? Why do you think it wasn't the same? What made it feel different?
Because I'm in control.
Exactly, you're in control. Yep. That's it.
That was really good.
Yeah, thank
That was
you.
really insightful.
Thanks.